think just so that you get a flavour of the session, the session is it is me delivering. I will open up the chat room, and obviously, if you want to ask a question, then put your hand up, and I'll do my best to get to you. I'm not leaving promptly at 5 o'clock, so there'll certainly be time at the end if people want to ask a specific question. And perhaps that's probably the best way to do it. If you've got a specific question, I'll happily stop on at 5 o'clock. If you don't want to stop on at 5 o'clock, then my email is easy to find, goodwin.m@mercyandtrust. So I'm happy to open up dialogue in whichever way works for you. Probably better outside the session so that we can maximize the hour, because there's a lot to get through. But I'm certainly open to conversation and dialogue. The session should be, I mean, a notebook, really, folks. That's all you need. If you can take away from this 5, 6 action points for tomorrow in working with young people, I think that would be a job done. Please don't copy things down unless it's just a short reminder, a short aide-de-memoire. All the slides will be made available to you. I'll find out how that's going to be done, but the slides will be made available to you. So it really is a notebook. I'll give pauses within the hour so that, that there's time just for a brief reflection. Obviously, in an hour, we are going to move at quite a pace. But the final thing about the session is that it is session 1. The plan is that there's 6 behavior. You can't do behavior in an hour. Okay, you can do a certain part of behavior. I'll explain the structure in more detail as we go through, but the idea is that there are 6 behavior sessions over the course of this year. We start off with getting to know the kids. Later sessions, as we move through, we'll talk more about setting up and training on behavior. And then sessions later on will deal absolutely explicitly with challenging behavior. So there is a plan around these sessions leading to more challenging behavior. And certainly the last 2 sessions will be working with difficult students. I certainly don't shy away from that. I certainly have some ideas. As I'll say clearly in a moment, I haven't got all the answers. I don't claim to have all the answers, but I've certainly got plenty of things that might help with behavior. So in the first instance, today's session is about knowing the young people, and using that knowledge to get the best behavior out of them. I'm just so grateful. There's nothing worse than setting up a training session and nobody come in. But so many of you have chosen to do this session tonight. I'm so grateful for that. I'm very conscious that there's a range of experience on the call, a range of roles on the call. I've got heads of year, I've got senior leaders, I've got pastoral staff, and I've got everything around those roles. So it is difficult to speak to all of those roles. So there might be times in the session where you think, yeah, I've heard this. But I'm hoping that everybody will have something that they can take away and is actionable tomorrow. If at any point you can't hear me, you can't see me, or you can't see the slides, put something in the chat or put your hand up and I will come to you and you can tell me what's not happening. Okay, so let's get things started in a collaborative way. Could you just put in the chat just a simple response to that question? What do young people need from their teachers? Just a quick off the top head of your a response off the top of your head. Let's give me some ideas around that, please. What do young people need from their teachers?
I've got the same issue as Claire, Mark. I can't put in the chat because I'm down as a guest, I think.
Give us one thing then, Simon, please. Claire?
Consistency.
Consistency, thank you. Can I just get 5 contributions? If people can't put it in the chat, could you just call out? Consistency is a good one. Thank you, Claire.
Hi there. I'm so sorry. Can you hear me?
I can, yes.
Hi, super. I think routine is really good, which I think links to Claire's a little bit. I think routines are really important to the children and the students so they know what to expect and what's to come.
Thank you. Routine and consistency, that's fantastic. Somebody else, one more.
Respect.
Respect. Thank you. Have we got one more?
Someone that believes in them and expectations.
Expectations. What was the first? What did you say before expectations? That's fantastic.
Someone that believes in them, so they can't do it. But yes, I believe you can. I believe you can do this.
Fantastic, fantastic. Belief in them, consistency, routines. Fantastic. Okay. I think there are other things as well. Support, structure, routines. I think more than ever, we live in a time where a sense of belonging, connection, we're going to talk a lot about that. Let's not forget that whether we're teachers or pastoral staff, there's a lot of subject knowledge and skills that we possess, experience that we possess that kids need. They need to feel safe overwhelmingly, and that's a big focus for all of us in our roles working with young people. I'd suggest to be part of something. I think the best schools, that's what they do. They create a sense of belonging, but you can create that in your classroom, in your year group, in your house, to be part of something bigger than them. That's what the power of that for young people can support them to really fly and do something special. I'm never sure that kids need any of these. I'll accept that perhaps on fire drill, there might be a bit more shouting than normal, but in general, around the school, I'm not sure that there's much need for shouting, ultimatums, humiliation, cornering, catching them out. And certainly from what I've seen around the Mercian schools, I certainly don't see much of this. But if we can agree that students, that young people don't need much of that, then I'd ask you, what do we teachers need from each other? And I think this is a collaborative effort around young people. We're working with young people together. We're all part of teams, whether that's a subject team, a form team, or part of a school team around young people. And of course, we need the same sort of thing as well. We need recognition, a sense of belonging, connection, safety, to be part of something. We need all of those too. And I think if I can just use that opportunity to go into the actual just admit somebody, right? The actual aims and objectives of the session. Know and understand your students and their influences. Use this to motivate and engage them in learning. Now, those of you who are on the behaviour ball might recognise what those aims are. I'll tell you later where those aims come from and give you the reference. But for now, if you leave this session with something about knowing and understanding your students and their influences and something to motivate and engage them, I've done my job, and the aims of the session have been achieved. So have a think. I'm not going to ask you to share. I'm just going to pause for a second and just have a little think about what you've learned about behaviour. There'll be lots of things, a range of experiences. I recognise colleagues that have done this for a long time, and you'll have learned a lot about behaviour. The point I really want to make is that I've learned a lot about behaviour, but I certainly don't claim to have all the answers. I've got a lot of answers, but I don't have all the answers. I reached the dizzy heights of deputy head 4 years ago. In the last 4 years, alongside doing behaviour training, I've worked with permanently excluded students in school, in mainstream school, in alternative, in special, but also one-to-one with them. And I learned more about behaviour in those 4 years than I had in the previous 20. So I think every young person that appears before us, we've got something to learn from them. Young people can be a delight and a pleasure. They can also be challenging. And I think the moment that you think that you know behaviour is the moment that you leave yourself vulnerable to being caught out. So in terms of what I know, I'm happy to put out there, just letting some people in. Certainly, it's worth remembering that getting behaviour right takes work. You can never take it for granted. It is down to us. And one of the key things that we can do as teachers is to set the weather. It is hard. It is difficult. Being a teacher has never been an easy job, but it's even more challenging than ever. But we do get to choose how we turn up, how we are in the classroom, how we are on the corridors, and how we are around school. We get to set the weather, and we've got control over that. We've got a choice about that. And that's something that I have to remind myself, particularly in the more challenging.
I'm in.
Remember your why. Remember why you do this. The first slide I'll show after this is about looking after yourself. But Simon Sinek has done some wonderful work on this about why. Why do we do this? Now, we want to get the best behaviour because we want to get the best out of young people. However you frame that, about them being better people, about them doing what's good, what's right, what's true, whatever the values are of your school, generally speaking, we want to get the best out of young people. That's why we challenge them about their behaviour. That's why we support them around their behaviour, because we want to get the best out of them. So sometimes you have to remind yourself of why. When you're down in the pit, the behaviour pit, and it feels like a bit of a grind, that's why we go out. That's why we speak to the young people. That's why we have the challenging conversations. That's why we organise the interventions. That's why we organise the support. That's why we organise the adaptation of our lessons. That's why we do all of this, because we want to get the best for young people. We learn the children's names. It's hard, but we learn the children's names. That's what I've learned. And going from school to school, that is really hard now. But the better you know, you all know that you get a better behaviour response if you know the young person. Sometimes that can be the key to a relationship that will change their behaviour. It's just simply seeing them, recognising them, using their name. That's the key. And that's something that I've learned. High expectations, we'll talk about this in a minute. Support and challenge, it exists on a matrix. It exists on the same spectrum, support and challenge. That's how you have high expectations. You get the support right, you get the challenge right. You increase the support for the students that need it, and then you remove it for the students that don't. You increase the challenge for the students that need it, and you decrease the challenge accordingly. You've got a spectrum that you operate on. That's how you have high expectations. I don't think I have to say this, but some people need to hear this. I'm not here to suggest that you do anything other than what your school behaviour system asks you to do. You have a behaviour policy for a reason. Within that behaviour policy should be a well-written behaviour policy, should have everything you need to get the best behaviour out of young people. Okay, but what I will say is there's a lot of things that you can do around that behaviour policy. There's a lot of things that you can do in addition to that behaviour policy. But the school behaviour system is there to support you to get the best behaviour. In my experience, be generous with the rewards and cautious with sanctions. And what I mean by that is, I mean, keep the sanctions so that they really mean something and they really count. So that when you give a detention, you really mean it. When you give a C1, you really, really mean it. Okay, you've tried to persuade, you've tried to de-escalate, you've tried to reason, and you've using the sanctions because it's because it's part of the policy, but because you want the best from the young person. Okay, it's a serious matter. It's something that you don't particularly want to do. You hope that they can reason. You don't particularly want to do it, but you will do it. And you hope that it lands, and it hope that it carries the message it's meant to, which is that you won't need to do it again. Catch the children being good. See the best part. Hundreds of children in your school go about their business every day doing exactly what we want. Even when behaviour feels fraught, behaviour feels tense, even when it's been a bad day, there will always be kids in your class, in your house, in your school who have done exactly what we ask them to do. Okay, never lose sight of that, and actually go and find those kids sometimes. Make a point of telling the kid that they've done the right thing. Make a point of telling the kid that you've seen them do exactly what you've asked them to do, and that is something worth acknowledging. That's all you have to say. I just want to acknowledge that. Try that. I just want to acknowledge that you've done all the work today. I just want to acknowledge that you've been on time every day this week. I just want let the young people know that you've seen them. That's all young people hope for from us. We're the adults. They just want to be seen by us and recognized by us. And there's a very easy win, especially on the tough days, when you've had those challenging conversations, when you remind yourself of all the kids, because we're not very good at doing this. Human beings are not very good at doing this. Teachers especially are not very good. We've got a very strong negative bias, and we see the worst, we feel the worst, we take it personally. Don't forget to see the best part. Even in a tough day, see the best parts. Catch the children being good. A couple more and then we'll get going. Be a champion for the children. Never lose sight of the teachers that made a difference with you. The reason you're a teacher or you're doing this pastoral work is probably because of a teacher, because a teacher made a difference to you, because of a teacher saw the best in you, because a teacher challenged you, because a teacher pushed you, because a teacher said, you should do this. So be that teacher for the young people that you work with. And then remind yourself, most children behave well for learning. Most children do exactly what we want them to do. Okay, so very quickly, this isn't a well-being session, but everything I do in behaviour now, I have to recognise this, that you have to look after yourself. If you're going to be a teacher in 2022, you have to have your well-being dialed in. You have to have something that helps you to look after yourself, the self-care. If you're going to be with young people in 2022, you have to have some emotional agility. You have to have professional stuff. You have to be able to do all of this, and that takes work. Thankfully, my job is to also support staff across the trust with well-being, and hopefully, you know, I recognise that if you're on this, you're wanting to get better and you're wanting to do your job well, and that suggests to me that well-being is somehow at least managed. But it is important that if you're going to support and help young people, that you've got that covered for yourself. Okay. I expect that everybody in this meeting is able to act in a professional, grown-up way when they're around young people. If ever you need a reminder when you're dealing with young people, if ever you need a reminder to just, be the grown-up and be the professional, just imagine that their parents are in the room. How would you speak to them? What would you say to them? How would you act if their parents were in the room? And this helps. It certainly helps me when you're dealing with a challenging young who's pushing your buttons, who's challenging you and making things difficult, and you need to take a breath and you need to reset. A good reset is to imagine if their parents are in the room, and then you'll normally say and do the right thing. and you'll say and do it in a way that gets you what you want. But it is very important to look after yourself, so that there's an emotional agility that's required to do this work. And what I'm just grateful for is at least this is being recognised. So this isn't a wellbeing session, but I have to acknowledge that. Now then, one of the first things people said was about routines and consistency. Those come from the expectations that you set. The expectations that you set for the young people help make good behaviour the norm. So so how do you set expectations? So the first real meat of the session, if you like, I mean, you might have picked up something from just the initial slides, the initial observations, but if you want to think about framing your approach to behaviour, then have a look at this. Okay, it's called the social discipline window. If you've seen this before, certainly people who've done work for me, this is my go-to, this is my North Star. When I'm trying to get the right decision, the right response, when I'm trying to get it right with a young person, I go back to this time and time again. But just quickly explain what we've got here. Challenge up the left-hand side is let's say it's our control of the young people. It's our boundaries. It's our consequences. It's our beliefs. It's the limit that we put on young people. So our challenge to them is the guide rail we put around them. It's our rules that we put around them. So we've got what can be seen as a challenge to the young people. So limits, expectations, boundaries, consequences. Our beliefs can be challenging to some young people. Our beliefs that they can, they should work hard. Our beliefs that they should tell the truth. Our beliefs that they should be nice. Our beliefs that they should value themselves can be challenging. But those are all the things that we put in place. The boundaries, the parameters, the limits that we put on them. That's the challenge bit of this diagram. The support bit along the bottom is our humanity. It's our compassion. It's our care. It's our empathy, if you like. It's our nurture. So along the bottom is our support that we offer. So we are, as teachers, find ourselves landing in these squares at different times. So if we land in the, let's just say, if we land in the bottom right-hand side, high support, low challenge, that's almost permissive. You know, we're getting close to somewhere where we just let things go, where the caring is so much that we're doing things for the young people, that there's too much support, there's no challenge, and it becomes almost permissive. Okay, now that's sometimes, especially early in a behavior work with a young person who really is struggling, that might be a good place to start. You have to really overload them with that support if you're going to get anything done. But if you stay there too long, then we end up with learned helplessness, and we end up with kids just expecting things to be done for them. Now, if we just move back a square, it's red for a reason. Low support and low challenge, that is really the Sodom box, I call it. Okay, that's where we just don't really care. Okay, we're not doing much for that young person at all. It's where we write kids off. It's where we say things like, well, what do you expect from them? What do you expect from them on that estate? What do you expect from them in that set? What do you expect from them from that family? Okay, we're not doing anything. Okay, and that's red for a reason, because we don't want to go there. Okay, now we've got a problem with this top left-hand box, because if we only provide challenge to the young people, you know, and we're teachers, we've got to have high expectations. For goodness sake, we want the kids to pass exams, so we do have to challenge them. But this is where there's high challenge and little support. So we're looking like, because I told you, just do it. work harder. You know, there's little humanity in that. There's little empathy. There's little nurturing in there. We're just simply the authority. Okay. And there are times, don't get me wrong, there are times when some kids have to hear a tough message. And we have to be pretty direct with them. That directness always carries far more weight if there's a bit of empathy and a bit of nurture and there's a bit of support going alongside it as well. Okay, in all my work with the most disaffected young people, you show that you can support them and you can be as direct as you need. If you go direct without any support, without any humanity, without any compassion, and you'll just get a barrier put up to you. Because you come at it hard, you come at it authoritarian, and a lot of young people will come back at you 10 times. Okay? The sweet spot, our expectations are up there in the top right-hand corner, where support and challenge is high support, high challenge. We can remove the challenge as we grow our independent students, which is what we want. We can remove that support. We can keep the challenge in place. We can measure the challenge so that it's the right sort of challenge. But it's things like, I know it's hard, but we're doing this together. We're collaborating. I'm your teacher, you're the student, but we're doing this together. Let's take some small steps. Yeah, we can do hard things. The relationship is strong. There's authority from the challenge. This is not woolly. This is not fluffy, but there's a bit of fluffiness and a bit of woolliness in there. If we can get that, that's where you can get high expectations. Young people will accept the challenge if it comes from a place of support, encouragement, nurture, humanity, compassion. Now, when you think about behaviour, and I've done this sort of work, and I've done it in schools that are in special measures, I've done it in schools that are outstanding, and it allows whatever the behaviour, you're to frame the behaviour in a helpful and constructive way. Is what is needed in this circumstance more challenge, less challenge, more support, less support? And if you think about this matrix, if you think about this setup, if you think about this window, you can start as the teacher, as the professional, to engage, push in the right way, make the right decisions, set the right work, have the right conversations, set the right interventions, because you can see what the young people need. Now, I'm just going to give you a second or two. I'm not just yet, actually. I thought I put a pause in there. I'm going to leave that. We could spend a long time, and if people want me to, I'll come back to that in later sessions. But for now, I'm going to leave the expectations, leave the social window slide, and just talk about a couple of scripts. The scripts carry a lot of power. I'm a little wary of scripts because I don't ever like to say, if you say this, then kids will behave for you, because it varies. But the scripts might give you a language that helps you to talk to young people in a different way. So a script, I'm not suggesting that this is a script that you follow word for word, but there are scripts that will give you a language that might get a different behavior from young people. Now, one of the first scripts, we talk about young people, we're talking about knowing young people, we're talking about understanding young people. Okay, the first script for me is that the young people you work with are special. Now, forgive me if that's a given in your school. I know it's not the case in every school. I'm sure it's the case in every Mercian school. But the idea that the young people in your school are special. They're not perfect. They're not perfect. Okay, every kid has their strengths and weaknesses, things we're working on, things that they do well. They're not perfect. I'm not saying that, but they are special. And kids need to hear this. Some young people need to hear it loud and clear. Most young people need to hear this at some point. And they're special, and you want the best for them. Okay, now I learned a very hard lesson early in my teaching career, because I was moaning about a year 9 class I had. And I was moaning about a particular kid in that class. And I was doing that NQT thing where you moan and you want to pass the buck. It's not my fault. I'm doing all this. I'm doing all that. And I moaned about this class. Now, unfortunately for me, the head that I worked for in my first school overheard me saying this. It's the last person you want. because he loved the kids in his school. He was proud of his school. He was proud of the kids of Chase Terrace. And he pulled me to one side and he said, Mark, okay, you don't get the kids that you want. Okay, Mark, are you listening? You don't get the kids you want. You don't get the kids you deserve. You know, there aren't a stash of kids hidden away in Burntwood somewhere that kids are keeping from us. We get the kids, we get our children, and they are special. Okay? And he left it at that. And I was told, okay? Now, that forced me to go and ask questions of what I was doing, and I got help, and I learned. I worked with a behaviour consultant as was from the local authority, and it was the first time that I saw that there was all this toolbox of things that you could do, and it really opened my eyes. So I learned something. Rather than blaming the kid, blaming the estate, blaming the timetable, blaming the curriculum, I went and did something about it, and it was because of the wise words of a special head that I worked with early on. Now, something I've come to a bit of a mantra I've got for myself, and this might help you, is that kids are doing the best they can. Families are doing the best they can with the resources that they've got. You know, if we start from that point, okay, because of their environment, because of where they live, because of their family, so all of this, they're doing the. If we accept they're doing the best they can, but we can probably help them. Now that helps me to engage with some of the most challenging young people, because I just believe they're doing the best they can. No, it's not a judgment. There's no point in me going and judging their behaviour, but we're certainly going to do something about changing their behaviour. Okay, so final script. Okay, these help me with young people. You're here to learn. My job's to help you. You know, we're teachers. We help. You know, we're teachers. We've got loads of good ideas about getting things right at school, in life. You know, we're doing okay. Okay, my job's here to help you. Remind kids that you're good at what you do. Okay, they'll throw it back at you. Some kids will throw it back at you. Yeah, right. Yeah, but you have to have the confidence to be able to say that you do well. You're doing a good job. You're all doing a good job. Look at you. It's 4:30 on a long school day on a Wednesday, and you're all looking to improve your behaviour, attending training. You're doing a good job. Tell kids you do a good job. Okay, be worth them listening. You've got good advice. When you say something like no or you can't, tell kids that you're a teacher. You know, what did they expect? Of course I'm going to pull you up. Of course I'm going to challenge you if you're late. You know, I'm a teacher. That's what teachers do. You know, you've got, there is still, for all people say there's less, you know, there is still an awful lot of power, awful lot of authority, awful lot of respect in the job of teacher. And young people, even when they aren't respectful, need to be reminded of that. Okay. This is my all-time classic. Is it the right thing at the right time in the right place? A very easy way to challenge low-level, annoying, frustrating behavior. Is it the right thing at the right time in the right place? Let's have something different, please, Lewis, Ahmed, Katie. Okay, is it the right thing at the right time? Yeah, I know I've got a sense of humour too, but shouting out at the top of your voice down the corridor is not the right thing. On your way, let's see something different. Doesn't need to say, it's not sanctionable behaviour, but it's frustrating behaviour, it's annoying behaviour. Okay, if you might have to come back to it, but in the first instance, something like that is a catch-all phrase that doesn't get an answer back. It's not, you're not looking for an argument. You don't have to prove anything. Okay, you're asking a question, which in the first instance is often a good way to start. Okay, and then remember all that other stuff. You know, people say, well, Mark, you know, all this behaviour stuff, fair enough, but I'm no counsellor. No, you're not. And I don't claim to be a counsellor. I don't claim to be a therapist, but I do care. And I can be compassionate. Okay, we're not the friends of young people, but we can be friendly. And I'm not an entertainer. I get told all the time that I'm not funny, but you can have a sense of humour. Okay, and you can have a sense of fun. And we have to remind ourselves of that. Teaching is a serious business, but a sense of humour goes a long way. Okay, now I'm going to take a minute just to pause halfway through, and we are going to get on to a couple of practical classroom strategies. I'm just going to take a minute, and if you have got your notebook, hopefully you've got your notebook to hand. Something that surprised you, something that's interested you. something that you've heard before, but really I'm hoping that you can take an action point, even from those first slides. Okay, a mindful minute, just 30 seconds to just pause. Okay, there might be something that's interested you and you'd like to find out a bit more about, and I'm happy to stop on at 5 o'clock and have that conversation. So I'm just going to have a quick drink and then we'll crack on. Somebody's got their hand up. I've only got Sam Butlin. Saint Butlin. Would you like to ask something? Hand up.
Hi, no, sorry. I think that was from earlier. I'm really sorry.
No need to apologise. I just don't want to miss something. So not a problem at all. Okay, right then. So some of you may have noticed the opening, the objectives of these slides, and the 6 sessions follow improving behaviour in schools. If you know this document, if you don't know this document, I do encourage you to have a look at it. It's still very relevant. Obviously, it was done before COVID, so we've, you know, maybe there should be a bit of recognition of that. But it's a really robust advisory based on case studies, based on real schools, about how you improve behaviour in schools. My 6 sessions basically cover this. The first session is, as you can see, knowing and understanding your pupils and their influences, teach learning behaviours, etc. I will follow that, but it is a very important document. It's not a massive document, and like all good education endowment foundation, they put a nice summary at the front with lots of user-friendly graphics that can help you to get to the key points of what they're saying. If you want to see something written by me, you can find on the Chartered College, the Impact website. It was only online, it wasn't in the print edition, but I wrote something about that and about practical approaches that deliver what the EEF document suggested. So if you've come across that document, it's a useful reminder that it's out there. It's free, it's on the internet. You don't have to go and buy a book. You don't have to go and buy a new publication, but my course basically runs alongside that. You can read my my application of it alongside that. It's on the website. And for all our work, I'm going to quickly go through this. Just a few reminders about why some young people are difficult to work with at the moment. Okay, I'll call it resistance to us, challenging behaviour, whatever it is. Okay, I use the phrase disconnection. I think that that allows us to then talk about connection. What more than ever, young people need connection. They need connection to young people, to adults who care for them, and they need connection to school. Schools are asked to do an awful amount. We always have done an awful amount. But if we can build these connections, then we can start to support them in the wider connections. Young people, for whatever reason, the young people, if we just accept this, then we will do things that will help us to connect with them and get the best behavior out of them. Kids are disconnected from family, they're disconnected from life, they're disconnected from school, they're disconnected from themselves, which is the saddest thing of all. They don't believe in themselves, they've got no confidence. Not only that, you know, we know more than we ever have done about early childhood development, about the impact of ACEs, adverse childhood experiences, the impact of trauma. Most schools have had some training on this. If you just want the headlines, if you just take away the fact that some young people find it hard to learn because of experiences before in their lives, then if you just accept that, you don't need to know the full details about what ACEs are, how ACEs impact. You don't need to know the full details about trauma. Then you will approach them in a way that gets the best behavior out of them. If we go back to our support and challenge, there may be some young people who in the first instance need a whole bucket of support before we start challenging them. Okay. If you want to get deep into the research, then poverty is only getting worse, and poverty has an impact on young people. Poverty has an impact on their ability to engage with education. I'll say it straight. I'm not making excuses, but I want to understand. We want to understand the young people. Okay. If I understand this, if we understand this, that poverty, disconnection, if we understand it, then we make the best decisions to get the best out of those young people. Okay. This is not an excuse giving session. It's a context session. We understand the lives of young people. Depending on the catchment you serve, then the binds of poverty are more significant and tighter, and making it difficult for young people to even see the point of school for some. And that means, but if we know that, if we understand that, if we're empathetic towards that, then we can make the best decisions for those young people. In my work with permanently excluded young people, they were predominantly boys. They were predominantly SEND, undiagnosed maybe, but I did work with some who had plans which were ignored, and they are pupil premium. And that's where we have to get good with behaviour. This isn't a session on working specifically with boys, specifically with SEND, or specifically with pupil premium. And we know how difficult that is because it covers a whole spectrum of students. But if you want to get good at behaviour, you've got to have something up your sleeve for these three groups. Okay, something to think about. Something to think about. Simple graphic. I don't have to talk you through it, I don't think. Some of the young people, because of their disconnection, because of their previous experience of life, because of their environment, they have adopted a great big shark's fin. The hood goes up, the head goes down, the scowl comes on, and they really don't want to know. And it's difficult to engage with these young people. Now, I'm just identifying this because I think that it is more prevalent, it is more widespread in schools, that the group previously that we worried about, that we put most of our work in, is now a bigger group, lower down in school. Year 7s come, year 8s now, year 9s. You know, it's not just the headline acts in year 11 that we worry about, but there's a bigger group in all of the year groups. There's a bigger group in our primaries. Year 5 is now a challenging year in some primaries, you know, let alone the last few weeks of year 6, but year 5. And so we've got more kids that really want to be, that are isolating themselves, that are cutting themselves off. They put on the shark fin, okay? And as I said, there are reasons for this. No role models, families whose experience of education has been negative, don't know what success looks like. They may have had traumatic or adverse early childhoods, surrounded by emotional instability. You know, this is what's behind the fin. You know, they find trusting teachers difficult, or they do the opposite and get attached to teachers, and they become clinging because they see that, you know, that teacher is going to be the answer to all of their problems. They can be cheeky, they can be provocative, they can be disruptive. The kids, there are kids at the moment in schools who are testing any behaviour system. They're pushing it to the limit. Okay, but they remain a pupil who can do anything they put their mind to. Inside, remember the graphic, inside, that's behind that hood up, that scowl, that head down, that rejection of us, that pushing away of us, is still a young person who can do anything they put their mind to. In them is a seed of achievement, is a seed of potential. And it's our skill, our behaviour strategies, our approach to behaviour that will get to that. Because, and this is a really important point if we're going to tackle the behaviour of young people, it's not, the child is not, we are, Lewis, Ahmed, Katie, they're all good kids. They're all fantastic. I think the world of them. It's the behaviour that we don't like. Okay, that's what we want to change. And if this message, if this is how you can say this directly to young people, they make mistakes. We talk about mistakes. It's not you personally. It's your behaviour, and that's what we want to change. Your punctuality, your behaviour in class, your behaviour in the corridors, your behaviour in maths, etc., etc. Once you separate that, 99% of young people will work with that. They accept that. Okay, we've got 15 minutes left, and we're on track. But I want to just get on to 4 things now. Just leave that thought hanging there. It's a great way of engaging with behaviour and tackling behaviour you don't want. Great starting point with a conversation. Okay, you think the world of Katie, Ahmed, Lewis, whichever kid it is, but we've got to do something about that behaviour. So let's separate the behaviour out. Okay, potential is a really powerful starting point, partly because it exists in the future. Okay, potential exists in the future. It's a hopeful, optimistic thing. Every kid wants to succeed, even the ones whose shark fins are very well established, very clearly worn. Deep down, they still want to do well. You know, it's human nature. And once you start to talk about potential, where do you want to be? School can help you to get there. Simplest of kind. Where do you want to be? School can help you get there, but school's got to work. So let's talk about punctuality. Let's talk about how you speak to staff. Let's talk about how you contribute to lessons. Let's talk about how long you stay in the lesson. Okay, making school work based on potential. Okay, we've said a lot about leading straight into potential. Number 1, I'm going to give you 4 things to take away, 4 practical things that you can take away. They get gradually more practical. This is still a little bit about our belief as teachers, okay? But believing in the children, okay? Believing in them sometimes more than they do. You know, let's be honest. A lot of kids don't even believe in themselves. So we have to say to them, 4th bullet point, I believe in you more than you do. And I'll hold that space for as long as you need it until you're ready. Okay. Now the power in that conversation. Okay, you've kept a kid behind after the lesson. You're not happy with their behaviour. Okay, I think you can be better than this. Well, I don't. Well, I do. Okay, and I will continue to work with you. I will continue to challenge you. I will continue to support you because I know that you can be better. I believe in you. The power in that, to say that to a young person, I believe in you more than you do at the moment. Okay, potential I've mentioned. There's what we're talking about here is a little esoteric. You know, it's a little bit out there, but we are seeing when we talk about potential, we are seeing something that they can become. You know, a better version of themselves, growth, nurture, being better. This is powerful language when you want better behavior from young people. And don't forget belonging. You know, I want you in this. I'm not going to put you out. No, I'm not going to put you out. No, I'm not doing that. You're staying in this lesson and we're going to work on it together. Okay, because you belong. The best place for you is in this class, in this school, working with me, your teacher, together. Now, this is not easy saying this to some kids because they're quite unlikable. But we have got the depth of nurture and emotional agility. We've got the depth of professionalism to be able to say it even to the kids we don't feel like saying it to. Okay, number 1, believe in the children. Number 2, why are we here? Okay, if they come into your lesson, if they come into your school, if they come into your house, if they're in school on that day, the reason that we are here is because of the reason that we're here is to do well at school, is to succeed. Okay, the rules are very simple. Sometimes we have to narrow rules down. I know we've got lots of rules in the classroom, but this is a Paul Dix thing, very simple rules: ready, respectful, and safe. If you want a quick intervention with a young person, you can say to Lewis, that is neither ready, respectful, or safe. Swinging on your chair, throwing your bag across the classroom, picking up somebody else's water bottle and drinking it. That's neither ready, respectful, or safe. You can hang a lot of behavior on those 3 simple things. and then you can quickly challenge it, quickly remind people why we're here. Now, in later sessions, I'll talk about relationships, I'll talk about responsibility, I'll talk about being better. We've talked about challenge and support and potential, but there are other reminders of the expectations in your classroom that are built around these simple concepts, these simple values. Use the language about learning, okay? We are learners, we're mathematicians, we're authors, we're scientists, okay? You're acknowledging that that's where you want to get to with these young people. And it surprises them. Well, I'm not a mathematician. Of course you are. You come to this lesson. It's a simple way of demonstrating how high your expectations are. You're an author, you're studying English. You've written today, haven't you? Well, I know it's only 2 sentences, but you've written, you're an author. Okay, but you're going to be a better author. You're going to be a better mathematician. Okay, why are we here? We are here to learn. That is the point of it. And we learn well when we are ready, respectful, and safe. We are learners, we are mathematicians, we are scientists, we're historians, we're authors, we're business people, we're health and care people, we're trainee professionals. If you're doing vocational work, if you're doing creative work, even better. Okay, remind them why we are here, what it is that you're looking to create and generate in your lesson. 2 more. Clear the path. Okay, easy one is to be prepared and be on the door. I think most schools have got this dialed in now. What you do on the door is important. You can do loads of things on the door. You don't have to do a fist bump and a high five. You can meet and greet, do your admin, check the uniform, but you can also set work. Work's on the desk, the work's a reminder, but you can also cut off problems at the pass. The kids who bounce down the corridor, the kids who are resting as they arrive, they've got to go and stand over there and wait to come into the lesson. They come into the lesson on your terms. They come into the lesson ready to learn. If they're not, just take a second. Square yourself off, calm down, take a breath, do your tie up, take your coat off, deep breath. Right, now you can come in. And the starters on the board, do now activity on the board, everybody writing, and because the do now activity has got a nice easy one at the start of it, it's got a 3-part activity, and the first one everybody can do. You can set the highest expectations. Everybody's going to complete this in 5 minutes. There's a timer on the door. Okay, meaning and purpose. We're all mathematicians in this now. Of course we're going to start with this. What did you expect? This is what happens every lesson down in history. This is what happens at every lesson at Aldridge. This is what happens in every lesson in Tipton. This is what we do here. This is what you do in my lessons. Come on, off we go. Let's get going. Okay. And then a big one, 2 big ones for me, for the teachers in the room. Connect the learning. Okay, remember we're talking about motivation, we're talking about engagement, we talk about the kids who might not, they don't readily sit in history, in English and maths and think, this is the most important thing to me today. I know it's important, you know it's important, but a lot of kids need help in seeing that. So go through a little connection checklist. Have something ready for the kids to connect the lesson to their prior learning, to their lives, to the scheme of work, to the curriculum, to the next assessment, to the exam. There's 2 things on this slide that take 5 minutes but can save half an hour of heartache in a lesson. Okay, I'm adding to your planning. I know that. Okay, but it's 5 minutes. But if you don't work in the classroom every day, just have answers to the kids for when the kids say it's boring, or they don't want to do it, or they hate the lesson. Okay. To connect a lesson to a young person, think about prior learning. What did they do last lesson? How does this lesson connect with that? Their lives, something, obviously, anything can be connected to the lives, to the community, to the world. So it can always, that's our skill as teachers. We can do that. It's easier in some subjects than others, but there's always something that you can connect it to. You've obviously got the wider scheme, the curriculum. Okay, don't ever let a kid say this is, what's the point of this? When are we ever going to use this? You've always got to have an answer ready for them, but get the answer in before they even ask the question. Okay, and then a really, really good, if you're just to, when you're doing your planning tonight, and you've got a lesson tomorrow, and it's just take less than 5 minutes to just go through the lesson, the most disengaged student in your class tomorrow, and look at what you've got planned for the lesson through her eyes, through his eyes, through her eyes. Just look at it. What's the level of literacy? How much are you expecting them to listen to you? And is there something that you can adapt? Is there something that you can have ready to adapt that lesson for them? Okay, it's called double planning. It's a Doug Lemov thing. It's a Teach Like a Champion thing. But that has saved my bacon so many times. If you're working with permanently excluded kids, you haven't got to, you've got triple plan, because you've got to have a plan D ready, okay? Because they will test you. You know, most of your class, if you just go through, look at it through the eyes of the most disengaged kid in your class, okay? I call this going upriver. Okay, you know that there's kids who don't much at the moment connect to your lesson. They're not getting a lot out of it. They're sullen. They're disconnected. They don't really. So let's engage with this. What can I adapt? Remember, adaptive teaching. How can I offer some support around this in order to get that engagement? One last one. Got a couple of minutes left. Big one for me. What it kind of summarizes the last slide really, but remind yourself of what's in it for me. What's in it for me? Be explicit and proud of the benefits of learning. Okay, you've got to be an advocate for learning. We are teachers. We want kids to be teachable, and we have to be advocates of learning. So learning your subject and your lessons. Okay, what's in it for those kids? Now, I've got a long list for history. I've got a long list for English. I've got a long list for schools generally. Okay, because I never let a kid say, what's the point? What's the point? Have an answer ready. You know it's going to come at some point, but get in there early. What's in it for them? Why are they doing this? This is important because yes, objectives, yes, do now activities, but have something that tells them why it's important. Even better, go curiosity and wonder. Okay, I'm going to finish off with a couple of things. Okay, Mindset by Carol Dweck. When we talk about behavior, a lot of poor behavior, a lot of unacceptable behavior is on the fixed side. The growth side is where we want to get kids. We get better behavior on the growth side. I like mindset work because it recognizes that these mindsets exist in everybody to a greater or lesser extent. You can be fixed and growth mindset. And if we're honest, we sometimes find ourselves on the left-hand side and we sometimes find ourselves on the right-hand side. But mindset gives us a very important thing, which it tells us that these are not inbuilt fixed qualities. They are things that can be worked on by young people. Okay, the whole idea that we are somehow fixed in our behavior. No, we can improve our behavior. We can change our mindset. We can work on our mindset. So Carol Dweck comes in for a bit of stick. Mindset comes in for a bit of stick, but I'm still standing by her because I've developed a lot of work with a lot of kids in a lot of classes because I've been able to get them onto a more growth mindset. So without going through the whole book, and literally the last thing I'm going to leave you with, the penultimate thing I'm going to leave you with, is a couple of things around behavior that are just very quick wins, very quick wins. Okay, you get that first pushback. Okay, I can't do it. I never do homework. I don't do science yet. Okay, challenge that is a perfect top right hand corner doing things together challenge when a kid says they can't do something. Okay, we can talk all day about resilience. I certainly do myself, but in the first instance, just say yes. Not I can't do it. Yes, you can, and you'll do it now. I never do homework. Well, you will starting right now because I tell you. Okay, yet. Okay, yet. It shows that you're opening up the space where this might start to happen because of the support and the challenge that you offer. So the power of yet. Okay. Even better from our primary colleagues, I hate learned helplessness. I hate learned helplessness almost as much as posters. Okay, so I'm just going to reveal a little bit about my prejudice here. I hate a poster and I hate learned helplessness. Okay, when a kid says, you know, oh, what did you say? I didn't get any, you know, and you've spent 5 minutes explaining it. Okay, they've got a brain the size of England. Okay? Before you expect me to give you the answer, I want you to look inside yourself and have a go at doing it yourself. Then there's a resource on your desk. Okay? Even if it's just your exercise book, the answer might be in there. Yeah, you can ask your neighbor, not the kid across the class, but then if you've done those three things, and if you say that, if you start to use this, primary do use this all the time. The kids have heard this in year 7 many times. Okay, but we forget it in secondary. Okay, if you've done those three things, then I'll come and help you. You need to do those three things first. Okay, well, I want independent, I want empowered young people to take ownership of their learning. Okay. Now, final thing, look at that, 501. Okay, behaviour. People say, what's the trick with behaviour? What's the trick? And there isn't really a trick to behaviour. There isn't really an easy answer. That's why there's 6 sessions on it. That's why there's all these slides. And that's why some people are thinking, well, you know, I'll try that, but I'm not sure about that, because there's so many, it's complicated, it's nuanced, it depends on this, it depends on that. But if there's one trick to getting the best behaviour, it's the ability to give a fresh start. It's the ability to give a clean page. It's the ability to give a kid a blank page so that they can write a different story. And this is powerful juju. This is forgiveness. Okay. This is vulnerability. This is me as a school leader. This is you as classroom teachers, year heads, pastoral leads saying you can be better tomorrow. Okay. And I'll give you a fresh page because I believe in you. Now, every kid needs a fresh start. Every kid. Some kids need fresh starts daily. Some kids need fresh starts lesson by lesson. But most of all with behaviour, we need fresh starts. Okay, we get it wrong. We make mistakes. We lose our rag. We ignore something. We have to be kind to ourselves and give ourselves a fresh start. Okay. Now, sometimes the most powerful thing with a class that is difficult, or a kid that is difficult, is giving them this blank page. Okay. Okay. You've done your time. You've done your punishment. I'm giving you the opportunity tomorrow to do something different. Write a new story. Now, there'll be a kid there Thursday out in your many schools. There'll be a kid that you can give a blank page to tomorrow. Maybe you've not had the best of days today and you need to give yourself a blank page tomorrow. But that, if there's one thing that I say, is having the strength, the character, the vulnerability, the humanity, the compassion to give a blank page. Now, you've been a fantastic audience. Thank you ever so much for coming. I'm not going to go anywhere for as long as if people want to stay on and ask me anything. There will be feedback forms. Please fill in the feedback forms, because as the sessions go on, I will include what people ask and what people say. If you want to email me, if you want me to come and speak to you or work with a class, then please go through your behaviour lead in your school, and or come direct to me and I'll liaise with them. But please communicate. Okay, if you want to stay on, stay on. Otherwise, please make the most of the evening that you've got. Thanks ever so much for coming onto the call this evening. The slides will be available to you. If you want to stay on, I'll stay on. Otherwise, thank you very much and see you soon.
Thank you very much.
Cheers. Thank you for saying that. Appreciate that.
Cheers, Mark. Thank you.
No, nice one. Cheers, Simon.
Now I've been unmuted. Thank you very much, Mark. It's Kate Ansell.
Brilliant, Kate. Cheers.
Thank you. Bye.
No, it's a
Mark.
pleasure. Thanks for saying that. Cheers. Ta.
Thank you very much.
Thanks a lot. Thank you. Thank you.
Cheers, Mark.
Thank you very much.
mate.
No, that's great. Nice one. Thanks for saying that. Appreciate that.
Thank you, Mark.
Take care.
Cheers. Will do. Thank you.